The Tekken 8 development team just had one of the most interesting open discussions about developing fighting games and working on Tekken 8 in the Evo FGC channel, and I really want to talk about some of these topics because they are incredibly relevant for the future of Tekken 8. I am of course going to be showing some clips of the discussion that are very interesting, but the first one that we need to talk about is one in which Murai talks about gameplay design and philosophy for fighting games. And I've talked about this countless times on my channel, especially in relation to Tekken 8, because a lot of people think that Tekken 8's aggressiveness is related to balancing issues, which is not the case. Tekken 8 is a very aggressive game at its core. It's related to the design of the system mechanics, of the characters' kits, and a lot of more things. So this is actually a key topic to discuss. I actually did a video about Season 2 some time ago that did very bad probably, and the reason why I mention it is because in that video I talk about the fact that Season 2 of Tekken is probably going to be even more aggressive, and a lot of people in the Tekken community are waiting for Tekken 8 to become a game that it is not. They are waiting for Tekken 8 to become a mainly defensive game, and even though we're gonna have more defensive options, and they even talk about that in this discussion also, the game is still going to be aggressive by definition. So if you don't like that, do not wait for Tekken 8 to become a game that is not, because you're gonna have an awful time with the game. So just stop playing it if that is something that makes you suffer, with the game. And also, do not have that hope, because you're only gonna have a worse time in the future waiting for this game to become defensive when it is not gonna be that.
作れるようにしました。でもあれよね、多分みんな分かってないのは、ゲームを作るときにしっかりしたキーコンセプトがあって、それを守んないとまず面白いゲームにはならないから、アグレッシブというものをぶれないようにしている。で、それはある程度楽しさが担保されて、でそれで理不尽なとこもあるからコンセプト捨てるんじゃなくて理不尽なことを直せばいいってことですよね。
理不尽なところを直したり、それを弱めたりとかですかね、緩和したり。
だから0、1じゃないんだよね。
頻度を減らしたりって本当に。
0と1だとみんな思い込んでる。
で、いくつだったりとか。
いいバランスがあるって信じてるんだけど、世の中ってこんなうまいこといかない。どっちか上げたらどっちかこうなるようになってるので、じゃあ両方上がった状態って意外と中途半端なんですよ。そのいいところが逆になくなっちゃったりする。でどっちか上げたらこうなるわけだから。
As I said before, I have talked about this topic many times on my channel, and I completely agree with the Tekken 8 development team. Any fighting game that you play is gonna have a very strong gameplay identity, and you can see even like before you even tried the game, when you watch gameplay trailers, you can actually have a first perception about the game being on a specific way. And you know when a game is defensive, offensive, when it tries to be in the middle, when it's all chaos, So like all fighting games tend to have a very strong gameplay philosophy and identity, and Tekken 8 of course is not ignorant to this, and this game is gonna keep being offensive. We are of course gonna get more defensive options, but still the core identity of this game is going to be offense, and if you don't enjoy that, don't torture yourself with the game. Don't hope for the game to become defensively oriented and more similar to older Tekken entries, because it's not gonna happen. So if you like, offensive gameplay in fighting games, Tekken 8 is probably gonna be for you for a lot of years, but if you are waiting for defense, I would say go ahead and try another game, man, even though it's hard to say it. Another key topic of discussion that they talk about is veteran players or legacy players and how much they have been against, the excessive offense in the game and the gameplay philosophy that the game has. And Harada even goes all out and basically throws like a message under the table to Arslan Ash and other pro players saying like, dude, you're whining about this game and you're having the best results of your career. So what is going on there? And it's a very interesting discussion to have, because legacy players, have been super tough in this game, saying that it's like for scraps and awful players and that the experience with the gameplay is horrendous. But I guess that we have to remember again that this is Season 1. The game is just starting, and even though it has an offensive, oriented gameplay design, we're gonna get more defensive options, and the game is probably going to be a lot better when it comes to that. So you have to kind of debate in your head, do you hate Tekken 8 because it is an offensive game, or do you just hate Tekken 8 Vanilla? It seems like we maybe forgot about Tekken 7 Vanilla and other fighting game franchises in which their first season was a freaking mess. So maybe we need to be a little more patient with the Tekken 8 development team.
その反応で見ると、鉄拳8のすごく変化したところって意外と変化したことに対しての 否定的な意見は割とベテランの方が多いんですよ。長くシリーズをプレイしてる人の方がやっぱそこは意外と不満が多い。で逆に鉄拳8が面白いと思ってる人、例えば初心者に優しいか優しくないかって話とは全く別でその壁を越えてきて8が面白いと思ってる人は今回の8の仕組みがやっぱ気に入ってるので、だから8が面白いんだって言ってる。でこれをじゃあその駆け引きのバランスっていうのを、じゃあもうちょっとベテランの人寄りにしようってやったら、もちろん8が面白いって言ってた人の満足度は下がるわけで、ここは結構トレードオフなので、まあでもそれにしてもちょっとここは極端になってるよねみたいなことをどれぐらいかってちょっと見ながらやってるってところが正直なところなので、あんまりこのどっちっていうか簡単な話じゃないんだよね。すごい細かいメモリというかの調整をやってるって感じだよね。e スポーツの結果から見ても、シーズン1通して見ても、
中津さん話したけど、
意外と
期待してた誰も知らない人が出てくるのが、
誰も知らない今まであんまり活躍できなかった人が上がってる、もしくは知らない人が上がってくる。でも逆に言うとやっぱり上手い人は上位、
そうなんですよね、
やっぱり上手い人はちゃんと上位に来る。だけどちゃんと上手い人が上位に来るけど優勝してるキャラが意外と、あとベスト8のキャラがバラバラになってる。いろんなキャラクターがどんどん出てきてます。これ意外とセブンの時にベテランの人ほどこんな固定のプレイヤーが、こんな固定のキャラが勝つのはどうなんだってベテランの人ほど文句言ってたことが実は一番解消されてるのは8。
それは間違いないです。
結果から見るとそうなんだよ。8なんだけど、それでも面白いことに、ベテランの人ほどこのちょっと新システムが気に入らないって言ってるって、この矛盾が面白いんだよね。だからそれはどっちを立ったらどっちが立たないみたいなやっぱ細かいバランスで成り立ってるのを俺らは割と頑張ってやってるつもりなんだけど、でも e スポーツの結果から見ると結構いい俺らが思い描いた通りになってるよね。
It is a very interesting discussion what they're saying, and well, even though it's hard to go ahead and agree with some of what they say, especially when they mention, what do we do with new players versus veterans? Like, do we just do all the balancing for the veterans and ignore all the newcomers in the game? Or do we do the opposite and basically ask for veterans to stay playing because they have been enjoying the franchise for a ton of time? It is a very delicate discussion, but at the same time, I'm very confident in their work because you can see that they are very, very committed to making the game and their gameplay the best it can be. The best balance that they can basically achieve while keeping the game offensive. It seems like that is their goal. So I'm actually very, very calm and in peace with what they say. Even if you don't agree with everything, it is a very healthy and open discussion about the balancing philosophy that the game has right now and how they are gonna try to make the game good for everyone and not only for veteran or only new players. And then we have another topic of discussion that it's a little smaller, but it is still very interesting, and that is that the dev team is going to actually add visual cues to a specific interactions in the game during fights, like counter hits, punishes. And Tekken is a very, how can I say this? It's an elitist game. There's a lot of elitism surrounding Tekken because it is basically the hardest fighting game out there. It's the hardest fighting game franchise. So a lot of people treat Tekken as some sort of Bible, that should never be changed. And I can kind of understand why that happens. And I know that a specific section of the community is gonna hate that the game now is gonna have visual cues. And I can understand that, but I find it ridiculous. Like, I've been playing fighting games since the early 2000s, and having visual cues to learn how to play a game better or make it easier for beginners is such a good detail. Much better when it comes to, quality of life evaluation of what the state of the game is. And if the game is gonna have counter hit, counter hit, visual cues, punishes, I'm okay with that. I think that is very helpful for new people. And we need to get new people to fighting games, man. We need to keep the franchise, and not only the franchise, but the genre going. And in that sense, I prefer to have the visual cues than not having them, even though I know that a lot of people are not gonna necessarily like that.
One thing, so no, I don't think I would like different particle colors. And in addition to that, I have that take about other things that have helped. Like, for me, the low parry zoom in, I have mixed feelings about. Because for one, it's really hype for the spectator. And it's like, oh, get low parried. But it freezes it. It lets you kind of register, oh, I'm getting a combo opportunity.
Yeah.
Same thing with counter hit zoom in, right? I think there was a cool there were a few cool things about when you counter hit somebody with Steve's back one in Tekken Tag 2. There's no zoom in. The hit spark is a little louder, but your opponent just drops. And if you're watching like a real fight, it's kind of closer to that instead of like, look, you got a counter hit. It's combo time. You know, people have asked like, do you think Tekken should have a counter notification like in anime games? And I actually think, based on what I've been saying, no. I like the idea that with training, with recognition, you can improve your speed, improve your ability to counter hit confirm by training. And for that reason, I like that there are these kind of skill checks. Now,
だったりもっと見てる人にも分かりやすくしたいっていうところで、鉄拳シリーズで初めてバトル中にナンヒットコンボとかカウンターとかパニッシュとか
プラクティスでしか出てなかった。
出てないクリーンって表示が出ることで、実際この見てると、あ、今反撃できてたんだとか、あ、すごいダメージのコンボ決めてるとか、そういう視覚的な変化が初めてバトルに出るようになったので、そこは結構気に入った。
あれは堅くなにね、堅くなに俺が絶対に出すなって言ってたんですよ。俺と木本さんが大嫌いだった。
そう、あえてプラクティスじゃねえんだ。
大嫌いだった。要は数値化すること自体がもうなんていうの、
難しく見える。
いや難しく見えるというか、それが全部それが全てになっちゃうじゃないですか。世の中って数値化しない方が自分で考えたりとか、コンボとかもだってもうコンボの数を競うようになってきちゃうと、もう限界数と最低限の数だけの世界になっちゃうじゃないですか。だからそれはなんか逆にこう分かんないところがあっても面白いんじゃないかだったんだけど、最近はやっぱり昔と変わってきたのはストリーミングで見るっていう、そう見てる人が何が起きてるかが知りたいだったりとか、プレイヤーと同じ気持ちになりたいとか、そういう意味でニーズが変わったので、もう今回からもういいよいいよいいよって言ったんだけど、今までは時代はやっぱ違ったというか、鉄拳なりのアナログな面白さを出したいってなんかちょっと思いが強かったからダメって言ってたんだけども、今回からねオープンしてるからね。
そこ結構大きいです。
Again, as I said earlier, a very interesting topic of discussion. Of course, this is gonna hit, some of the veteran players. They're gonna maybe be super against it, just like Harada. He's very open about the fact that he doesn't like it, but then now he's a little more open about it because he's also, a legacy player of the Tekken franchise, even though he's also a dev. So I think that is going to be a good change. For new people, it's going to be very useful so that they can understand when they are punishing someone, when are they getting, a huge counter hit, just so they can learn at the start. I think that it is a great thing. And for competitive play, it's also going to be an advantage. Maybe some players now are not going to drop some big counter hit combos, or maybe they're actually going to get like more consistent punishes. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I think that it is a decent quality of life change that is going to make the game easier for beginners without changing the gameplay, which is what many people want. A ton of people want the game to basically be more accessible without making the game more dumbed down in the gameplay sense. So this is gonna make it more dumbed down, literally only on visual specific cues. So you could argue that it is a decent trade-off to make the game better for new players without making the game more stupid, and more easy in the competitive side, and basically get the veteran experience even worse. So I think that is a decent decision to have. And those were, the topic of discussions. I think that they were really, really interesting. It was a very good video by the Tekken Dev team and the Evo FGC channel. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. What do you think of all these discussion topics? And see you on the next video, guys.